Greetings, beloved, and welcome to our Wholesome Wednesday. We thank you so much for your continued support. We thank you for the feedback. We thank you for sharing, and let's continue to subscribe. So today we continue with the book of Exodus, and today we're on Exodus chapter 22. So I've been receiving a lot of feedback from you, talking about the slaves, God and the slaves, how God gave these principles on how to take care of those that find themselves in the unfortunate bracket of being called slaves. But you see, when God is giving these, because in the Bible, people use the Bible to say, they were using the Bible to say God actually justified slaves, number one. Two, today people struggle with the Bible because they say it is through the Bible that people were abused under the name of slavery that God actually instituted. So we find people that are struggling. When you mention the Bible, they struggle with the idea because of the idea of slavery. Now you see that, or you understand that when God is giving this bracket of slavery and how these people, God is giving the children of Israel. It is the year of Jubilee, and this is the setting that God is actually, it's a year of restoration, right? It's a year of, it's not coming in the vein of God saying people should be punished, but it's coming in the vein of restoration, because he is saying even if the person finds themselves in this bracket of slaves at that particular time, right? It's not forever. They are going to be taken in for whatever reason. They are going to be taken in. And when they are taken in, even if they are not able to pay back, right, they should be allowed, they should be let go. For a particular number of years, then they are let go. For a particular number of years, then they are let go. God always had a fallback plan. He doesn't leave his children like that. Yes, you have found yourself in debt, and now you have nothing that you can do to actually pay back the debt. Then you are taken in as a slave for a particular number of years, and then you are free again. Because God has given that principle does not mean that we have to go and do it, so that you then claim that God actually is the one who instituted slavery. So today in chapter 22 is a continuation to actually continue to explain that God always puts a fallback plan. God in Exodus chapter 20, he says, he gives them the commandments, and he says these are the principles to live by. And we agree that these principles are given to a free people, so they are more freeing than trying to constrain or trying to box people, right? So they are given to a people that are free so that they enjoy their freedom to the fullest. Now God is coming back. He has said in Exodus chapter 20, do not steal. Exodus chapter 22, we find a God that is coming up with a fallback plan. What happens when we find yourself in that bracket where you're a thief now, where you have actually broken that commandment and you are now stealing? I still care enough for you that I'm putting systems in place that you are not taking advantage of. So God puts systems in place that when you have decided to break the law, you are protected, and the one whom you are stealing from is also protected. So God is a God that is caring for all of us, with both the thief and the one who has been wronged. The one who has done wrong and the one that has been, all of them are the children of God, and God loves them equally. God loves his children equally. So he always has a backup plan to save his children, so that they are not taken advantage, so that they are not abused, so that they are not taken advantage of. So when we find ourselves in a space where we are saying, okay, God actually allowed the children of Israel to have slaves, he actually explained the confines where people can find themselves in the bracket of slavery, right? But then, even then, when you find yourself in that bracket of slavery, he had principles that they were supposed to be followed by those that were taking care of the slaves, by those that had slaves. Because he couldn't write to the slaves because they don't have power to do anything, they can't control anything. But to the one who's got the slave, this is what you should do. Do not, because you were once slaves yourself, you know how it feels like. Do not take advantage of these people. And for a certain number of years, you should let these people go. So we find a God that is willing to work with his people, and he's got a plan to save us back to him. He has a plan to give us a second chance so that we find ourselves doing what is right. So Exodus chapter 22 is continuing in that vein to say, yes, I've said do not steal, but I know that some of you are going to be found in that bracket of stealing. So when you have stolen, this is what should be done to you. If it's during the day, when they catch you during the day, this is what should happen to you. If it's at night and you're caught at night, this is what should happen to you. If a neighbor leaves some money with you and they come back and you say your money was stolen your money was stolen in my house, they should be able to explain beyond reasonable doubt that actually the money, yes, was stolen. So God is putting this so that there is peace, so that there is harmony. There is something about humans that when our tempers flare, we find it difficult to reason. So God puts principles so that in those moments where we are on the either side, whether on the side where we are the ones we have done wrong, or we are on the side where we are on the receiving side, our tempers can flare. So the best, God then puts a principle in the middle, so that both of us, the one who has been wronged, the one who has wronged someone, both of us, we come and hold on to the principle. And the principle will unite both of us, because the principle comes in the middle. So it is in our everyday lives that we should apply these. If it becomes difficult to think rational when things are not going our way, it becomes difficult when we are the ones who have to forgive others, and it becomes difficult when we are the ones that we have to extend the hand. And then the principle comes in to bridge the gap for us, because at that time we are not thinking properly, we are not sober. And then the principle, we hold on to the principle even if things don't make sense. We hold on to the principle until we sober up to actually appreciate what the principle has done for us. Had it not been for this principle, I would have been lost. Had it not been for this principle, I would have done something worse. But because of this principle that I held on to, even if things didn't make sense, now I realize that this principle served me and the relationships around me. So this is the vein that God is giving us these principles to live by, so that we get to see the goodness of these principles, even if things are hard and they don't make sense and it's painful to apply. But further along, as we look back, we realize that that principle was put in place for our sake, to protect us from ourselves. We know how evil we can become when we are wronged, but the principle comes in to cover up for our wickedness, to cover up for our evils that we have, so that we then look back and reflect and realize that surely that principle saved us from sinning even worse. I'm calling you to a God this evening, a God that is so caring enough to actually give you a law that do not steal, and then we will go again back on that law, or go ahead and give you a fallback plan in case you break the law. Who does that? Because most of us, when we have been wronged, it's finished. We do not have a second chance. But God is saying, when you have done something wrong and you find yourself in here, please protect my child. They would have made a mistake, put them in this bracket for a certain number of years, bring them back. When they come out, even if they go back in that bracket again. It's a cycle. But do not take advantage of them, because they are still mine. There is no human being who is above any other human being. No matter how many times the person has done wrong, there is no human being who has the capacity or the power to stand on top of you. Every one of us, when we go to God individually as we are. By the foot of the cross, the ground is level. All of us are equal. There's no one who is higher than the other, no matter how many times the person is sinned. But it's the fact that they've got to the foot of the cross, there the ground is level for all of us. So I'm calling you to a God that has loved us this much to actually give us this many chances. And this is not to say people should go ahead and sin, because I'm not saying people should sin perpetually because God is going to forgive them anyway, because you do not know when these things there, even if you're in this bracket where you're protected as a slave, right? Even if you're in this bracket, it does not take away the consequences. The years that you spend in that bracket trying to work for whatever wrong that you'd have done. Somebody who is not in that bracket would have worked hard and achieved so much that you could have achieved. So let us not derail the purpose that God has got for us by putting ourselves in these brackets where we're not supposed to be in, and putting our own purposes on hold because we are failing to keep what God has given us. Let us know that when God is giving us a second chance, we are starting again, but we're going back to the purpose and pursuing. God has never planned that we find ourselves in those brackets. We get there, we make mistakes, and we find ourselves there, but we wake up, we stand up, and we continue going, pursuing our purpose, because He has a purpose for all of us. So I'm calling you for a God that is able to save you from whatever is troubling you, save you from whatever sin that you find yourself in. He is able to take you out and help you to go back on track again.